going to do an overview of the Italian Vetterli model 1870/87/15. A very unique and unusual gun. I've seen a lot of these weapons over the years, and until recently I haven't found one in any condition that was, other than basic junk. With this rifle, the story on this rifle is it started off as a 10.35 millimeter single shot gun. Then in probably the model 1870. Then in 87 they decided, the Vitali guy installed a magazine to make it, I think, a 4-shot repeater. The magazine that went on to 10 millimeters was pretty much, it's similar to the Dutch Beaumont rifle. It was just this box magazine thing stuck out in the bottom. And then in World War I there was a shortage of weapons, so these guns here were then again given it the /15 converted to 6.5 Carcano. And this was done by sleeving the bore, the 10.35 millimeter bore with a sleeve. They either brazed, soldered, or probably brazed or soldered it in, and made it a gun that was compatible to use with the 91 Carcano ammo. And they changed the magazine here on this. This gun's been modified, and that they had a different, and that's how this one ends up with that magazine style, which is a Mannlicher style, to handle these in-block clips. Generally, I never really fooled around with these guns much because, like I said, most of them I found in condition was pretty bad. Part of that is disassembling this. We'll have probably a multi-part video on disassembling this gun. This one here is probably the toughest and most difficult military surplus gun I've ever disassembled. Basically, it has the Vetterli style bolt like the Swiss guns, and these lugs here, getting closer. You see there's a couple lugs right here in the back of the bolt. That's how it kind of locks. That's what locks into the receiver. So it's really not super strong, I think, for a modern smokeless cartridge. Plus then it rides on like a rail. This thing in the back here, the sear kind of rides on a rail in there. You see it kind of flops around, it's loose. Just because the military made it doesn't mean that it's any good. So, this one here is in pretty good shape. It's got an excellent condition bore, which most of them have a shot out bore, rusted, pitted, So this was a little unusual when I picked it up. Now to load this, it loads after the conversion. It loads like the typical Carcanos, or Mannlichers. Press the clip down, and then you strip through the mag, and then you have the button down here to release the in-block magazine. There we go. Overall, the conversion is kind of bizarre, kind of flimsy. I was trying to get a 10 millimeter to compare it to, and what I'll do is I'm going to get the camera and we'll take a closer look at some features on this gun. First we'll look at the end of the muzzle there. I don't know if you can see it well enough, but you can see where there's, like in the, where they brazed it or whatever, you can see where the liner's been in place in there. You can actually see the little line on that, where that gun was, relined. And it still retains, I don't know if these sights were changed or anything, and it still retains the old style sights with the ramp. Here's a closer look at the magazine, which is a Mannlicher style conversion. And you can see where it had that other style magazine that's been plugged up in there, you know. And like I said, I'm going to do a disassembly video because it's very difficult. A lot of these I found, the screw heads are all tore up and the guns are pretty beat up and the bores are shot out. I don't know if something about the sleeve. There's problems with that sleeve, not reacting well to the corrosive ammo. And here we'll take a close-up. See that rail down in there, and the sear rides in that rail. And there's your locking lugs right there in the back. And that's what holds that in that ring there. There's no locking lugs on the front of that bolt. So, you know, if I ever did shoot this, I'd shoot it with cast bullets and a very, very light load. You know, very interesting piece. We'll take a few more looks at it. Okay, I have it in a rifle rest now, kind of by myself, so it's difficult to get a good look at this. So like I said, there's your bolt. I think you can see that rail deal there. This milled like a ski ramp or something. That the bolt rides in this. Kind of unusual. It's not a smooth operating gun, put it to you that way. I have trouble manipulating the bolt with one hand. This here has something to do with, there's a wedge in here. You have to turn this ring to where this lines up, and you tap the wedge out, and then the bolt will come loose. The other unusual thing I've seen about this, and I believe it's the safety, is this big lever here. Throw this thing up like that, and how it works, I've never seen nothing like it, is you take the bolt home, and when you try to put it down, this thing engages the bolt. It doesn't close all the way. It rests on this like little V, and then when you hit the trigger, the gun won't fire. Okay, see that on it, how it rests in there? And then all you got to do is lift this up. This drops back, it's like spring loaded. Then you just kind of lift the bolt up here, click, put the bolt down, and then she goes off. Let me try that again. Okay, here's a close-up of it. I guess I didn't lift the bolt up all the way. Like I said, I'm having difficulty. This thing springs up in there. And then when the bolt comes down, this like goes into some halfway position, and it rests in this notch here. Like this. Okay, see how it rests in a notch? Now the gun will not fire. So all you got to do is lift this up all the way, cock it, you'll see that protrude there, it's a visual indication, and then just put it back down. This snaps out of the way, this is indicated, now gun goes off. Really unusual, never seen nothing like that before. Very strange and unique gun, pretty interesting. Though with the barrel being lined like it is, you're not recommended to shoot these. They're considered unsafe to shoot. And just because the government made it in the middle of a war crisis doesn't mean A, it's a good design, or that it's safe or usable. I'm not sure. I haven't done a lot of research on this gun. But there's an overview for it. Now